Build Your Best Life with Coach Deborah D. Smith invites you to our 4th annual virtual Men and Boys Conference. The virtual event is Monday, June 12th through Thursday, June 15th at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, each night on Facebook and YouTube. This year's theme is How Men Reach Their Sons. Special guests include Monday, Ricardo Miller Jr., Tuesday, Courtney Bell Jr., Wednesday, Pastor Herb Ford, and Thursday, Pastor and Coach Ricardo Miller. We are excited to have the perspective of different generations. We believe everyone will be able to gain fresh insight and years of experience in how men can reach their sons. This event will give you the tools you need to reach young men. Visit www.buildyourbestlife.org for more information.
Good evening and welcome to our Men and Boys virtual conference. Wow, I cannot believe it. I am so excited. I mean, this is our second event this year, and we have some great speakers on this year. I cannot wait. You know, normally we have had in the past our expertise in the fields of coaching, leaders, pastors, but this year we have an extra special treat. We have some young men, our future, that'll be on speaking. So I am just over the moon excited. So thank you so much for tuning in today. Come on in, get relaxed, get your notepads, your tablets, your pen, your water, whatever you're going to be drinking, and get ready for a treat. So as always, we want to start out with a word of prayer, but please take the time to share. Invite some other people to come on and get into this year's event. Father's Day is right around the corner, so it is a great time to have this event. And you know, it's all about reaching out and assisting our young men, and we need our dads to step up and do that. So our theme, how men can reach their sons, I know it's going to be phenomenal. So without further ado, we're going to have Deacon Dan Smith to come on and pray us in our seminar.
Well, good evening, everyone. Hope everyone's day been going well today. I'd just like to give a shout out to Coach Deborah D. Smith on this 4th annual Men's and Boys Conference. She has been blessed. She's a great lady. She's a spiritual lady, and she's doing her best because we definitely need this to get out to the young men and the fathers. So we have so much balance and different things going on. Let us pray. Father, we just thank you for this day. We thank you for life, health, and strength. You bless us again, allow us to see another beautiful day with our health and our strength. But morely, this is the day that you made for us. So we will rejoice in this day. Now I ask you to bless this conference, Men's and Boys Conference. Let it be pleasing in your eyesight. Let it reach all over the world, touching somebody tonight and just cover them. Now we ask you to cover the speakers for this amazing conference. Bless them all as they bring their words to this engagement. So we thank you. Now we just ask you to continue for support of Coach Deborah Smith and just guide and lead her and let her keep on doing what she's doing. We thank you for everything. We thank you for grace. We thank you for your mercy. My God, we just ask you to continue to bless us and show us the way and just bless this conference. We thank you for everything. These are all blessings we ask your son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you so much, Dan. I appreciate it. And again, Father's Day is right around the corner. And keeping in line with that, every year when I have this conference, I try to do something a little bit different. One year I think I had some of mine, and I've had a couple solos. But this year, I have asked some young men to come on and tell us what they think about their dads or something special that their dad has taught them. So tonight, our first young man is coming on. So I'm going to bring him on here.
Good evening. My name is Christopher Smith. I'm the youngest son of Coach Deborah. And with Father's Day coming up, I just want to take a little bit of time to kind of share with you a few lessons I learned from my dad. So a few things my father taught me. First one being never compromise when it comes to your values. He built his foundation of his reputation on trust. He was just always giving people honest advice and information, and just always being willing to listen and, being trusted not to repeat sensitive information. He also stressed that there was no such thing as being too early. And, with that being said, he would say, starve a problem by feeding opportunities. So many times as humans, we spend so much time just worrying and thinking about our problems that we're not focused on what opportunities we have today and make sure we capitalize on those because they might not be available tomorrow. And then just, being proactive and seeking your next opportunity and also being mindful of timing. Just treating everyone with respect, being honest and just treating people well. I can remember so many times when we're at church or the grocery store or just, out and about, and it's like some random person he met at work, whether it be like a janitor or CEO or, all kinds of crazy people from different walks of life. And he always shook their hands and looked them in the eyes and say, "Hey, how you doing?" And it's another thing I just learned a lot from. And just being an example others can look up to. There's just so much you can learn from others, not only like directly, but indirectly as well. Just there's so many people who've made mistakes in our lives that we know, and you can learn from those mistakes as well, just not analyzing. Like sometimes just take a step back, kind of try to put yourself in their shoes just to understand their motivations and their train of thought and just understanding why or what you have done in that situation. And there's just so many great memories I've had with my father. All the times he took me fishing because it was just him and his element. He was just not getting too low or too high based on how many fish he caught or a lot of times didn't. And just, it was about the quality time with me and my brother. Looking back now, that's what it was. And then there's this time. So every Friday, me and my mom and him would go to the movies. It was always like a Friday night thing. So one time he's come back from the snack bar. He got popcorn and a drink. And he's walking up the stairs and somehow he trips up the stairs and popcorn just went flying. And I just also remember it looked like something out of a movie. I just remember, he kind of sat there, make sure he was okay, but he kind of laughed at himself. And man just knew how to never take himself too seriously. And, there's times when, in life, you just got to stop and kind of take accountability or stock of what's going on. Another memory I have that was very important for me was the time I got kicked out of private school. My dad sat me down, made sure I confronted not only my actions, but the consequences as well. But he didn't yell. He was just always a consistent, understanding force who I knew I could always rely on. And then, thinking about how he encourages me, there was a man who left a gigantic void in my life growing up. One day, my father stepped in and overfilled that void, and it was like that void was never there. It wasn't until I had a child of my own that I understood how invaluable my father is. Just the amount of love, sacrifice, and support. He encourages me just because every day I look at my son, and I hope that someday he feels even a fraction of how I feel about my father. And just thank you for your time.
Well, I always have to surprise somebody, Dan. So it was all about you today.
I see. Thank you.
Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed that from your youngest.
I did it that. Very proud of it, of all of them.
All right. So we're going to continue with our program for this evening. Next, I've had the privilege of working with this young man for over the past 3 years. We've done it virtually, and I finally got an opportunity to meet him in person this past weekend. And so our speaker for our first night is Ricardo Miller Jr. of Dallas, Texas. And Ricardo, or I call him RJ. RJ is going to introduce himself, and then he's going to go on into his delivery, his presentation for tonight. So please help me in welcoming Ricardo Miller Jr.
Yeah, let's get this full screen real quick. Perfect. All right. So, hey everyone. My name is RJ Miller, or Ricardo Miller Jr., as I would put my government name to be. I am a graduate now of Tarrant County Community College over at South Campus, a previous alumni of the Intercultural Network program as well. I'm also a motivational speaker and content creator, videographer, all those different kinds of things that work with cameras. And yeah, that's pretty much my little short spiel. What I'll be talking about to you guys today is communication is the key to success, as you see right here in the title, but all the other great things that also come with communication and all its great intricacies. And also to let you know and give you a little bit more of my ethos, give you a little more credibility. I am a communications major, so I got a little something to say about this, just a little bit. But yeah, so I hope that you guys enjoy and hope you learn a lot from this great presentation we have here coming today. And I hope that my pops and all the other fathers out there are going to love and gain a lot of great things from this presentation. So let's go ahead and get it kicked off here. So you'll see here first, we have our table of contents and everything, a brief breakdown of what will be covered and all the other things you can expect throughout the presentation. Going to wait up for a few more seconds for those who are going to be watching it back, or for those who are right here with us now to be able to break down and understand a little bit what to expect. So going on into the next slide. Did you know that 93% of movie theater popcorn ends up wasted? Let that sit in, simmer for a little bit, let you read that. So then actually, right, with the way that I presented that, with the way that you can read that, with the way that I talked and the way that I used my tone and delivery in that whole statement, it was actually, there we go. It was actually all sarcasm. So whenever it comes into that, right, we're talking about the basis of communication and how much it can vary. Interpersonal communication comes with so many different various different factors that play into it, right? So one of the great quotes that I feel like really sums this up is this quote coming here from Albert Mehrabian that 55% of communication is actually nonverbal, 38% is vocal, and only 7% is actually the words that you said. So it really comes down to the fact that whenever it comes into communication, you have to understand the whole concept as a whole. There's so much more to communicating and interacting with other people than just the words we say and just the way that our face looks and all these other different things. There is a absolute plethora of different factors that come to play into it. So whenever you're going into communication, keep that in mind. The fact that only 7% of the communication that you're having with people on a day-to-day basis is actually made through words. So much the rest of it, 55% of it is nonverbal, which means all the body language, which means your tone, which means the way that you first set up the introduction of this whole conversation. All those different things play a huge factor into the world of communication. So now closing into that point through my introduction, hopefully you got a little bit of something from that exercise, is the first point, which communication being a bridge between man. It is. So what I mean by in that whole concept and in that whole statement is the fact that communication is the way in which us as humanity has made this bridge between each other. It's the way that we communicate to each other through the internet. It's the way that we communicate through each other, through our family, through our friends, and even to ourselves. So whenever it comes down to the bridge of man that is communication, the two major pillars that I would like to cover with it are the fact that it is great for building relationships and it's great for conflict resolution. So in those 2 points, building relationships is so key to great success in life, because nobody ever made it to the finish line in greatness by themselves. No sport out there has a team that's considered an all-time great team, or even has a single player that's considered an all-time great player who didn't have people who were behind them working for them on their team, right? So you need a great circle around you. You need a great village, as my parents would say. You need a great village of people around you to help build and construct that image, construct that goal, and get to that goal that you have in mind. So whenever it comes into building that team, building that goal, communication is ultra key. Communication is the main pathway in which we can expect to. 1 second, my screen just turned off for me. All right, cool. Communication is the main key whenever it comes into actually building these relationships, because communication is the baseline in which we build trust. Trust is so much the major part that makes it easy for us to actually have these relationships going on. Great connections and great people are never made truly without great trust. With more trust and a deeper trust becomes better circles and comes better people around you. You are what you attract, as people would say. Or as a quote that I take from I say my dad, but I'm sure he stole it from someone else, right? Because this quote is so known everywhere. But show me the 5 people closest to you and I can show you your future. So with that whole concept as a whole, right, you have to be able to be mindful of the fact that intertwined with success comes the people around you, and intertwined with the people around you comes the way that you communicate and translate with those people. So going into the next point on the keyness of having a great circle around you and how communication is the key into getting into building those great circles, it also is great for learning more about the people around you. So in great communication never comes a one-way street. It's almost like the whole concept of a two-way highway. A great highway or a great road or a great street or a great city is never made off of all of its entrances. It's also made off of its exits, or else every city would have terrible traffic. LA, Dallas, New York. Yeah, but no, in all seriousness, right? Great communication and great things oftentimes come with a two-way path. And communication is the exact same way. So with great speaking and great communication and great words and great vocabulary also comes great active listening as well. So with those great factors and everything built up into the whole concept of building great, amazing relationships with man comes the second point, y'all: conflict resolution. So one of the major things that I feel like is so major that we deal with in the modern age now, right, is major conflict. Is conflict about politics, conflict about family, is conflict about food, is conflict about everything, right? So whenever it comes into actually solving and resolving this conflict, communication is the way in which we can get it done. So I'll go into further explanation on how you can actually go forth to improve upon this whole idea of conflict resolution in some of these later slides. So go on to the next one here. Communication inside the workplace and communication inside your professional spaces, right? So why this place is also so important, right? Oh, oops. Sorry about that, y'all. Hope I didn't hurt any of the headphone users. Okay. There we go. Phone fell. Got a little timer inside. All right. So communication inside the workplace, right? Going into the next 3 points that we have here and how we can summarize and pretty much collectively pull together communication in the workplace is I put it under 3 main points: professionalism, culture, and the balance between the two. So whenever it comes to communication and professionalism, right, we just previously talked about how key communication is in success, right? So we now need to talk about success and how you evaluate that. Success and professionalism intertwined. I know that you guys all the way out there all know the whole idea of the successful businessman walk around in a sleek, nice suit, just came out of his new Rolls Royce, his new Maybach, his new whatever, whoop de whoop, right? But to be able to get to those places, and what oftentimes are a lot of those people doing, a lot of those guys are those businessmen wearing those suits, but to also get there and to work with those kind of people, you have to have professionalism, know how to work in these different spaces. From your handshakes to your presentations, you have to know how to be able to convey yourself and communicate professionally, because there's a whole different there's a whole different subculture, right, which we'll get into in the next point, whenever it comes to professionalism. Now, whenever we're intertwining the whole concept of professionalism and culture, the two come hand in hand. Professionalism culture all comes down to the suits, the handshakes, knowing how to professionally and eloquently communicate with yourself, using the right words, using the right language, using the right diction, knowing when and where to dress up in certain different ways, knowing when to wear chains, knowing when to wear suits and ties, and etc. Right? The next space that comes into it is culture. Now, whenever I go into that whole concept of culture, I know that a few of you may be a bit confused how culture intertwines with business place and workplace and everything like that. But workplace culture is a huge thing once you start continuing to go out throughout the world. And for those of you you know, workplace culture can vary so much from place to place to place. Google's not going to be like working at Microsoft, and Microsoft's not going to be like working over at your local 7-Eleven or even at your Goldman Sachs, was it, in places like that. All the different places have completely different and various workplace cultures. So with that being the case, workplace culture oftentimes, I won't say oftentimes, but can sometimes vary and even clash at times with professionalism culture as well. Although inside your office spaces say, oh yeah, you need to do this, you need to do that, show up on this time, show up at that time, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All the stuff that you get asked inside of an interview, correct? But then whenever you actually end up going into the actual workplace and dealing with your different coworkers, dealing with actual customers, dealing with all the different people that you deal with on a day-to-day basis outside of your interview, outside of your interviewer, you'll find out that the culture in the actual workplace is completely different. So with that being the case, it's also very, very key to understand and to listen and to actively engage to understand your workplace culture as well. Because without working well with your team, you won't be able to work well within the company. Although you may be able to do professionalism great and be able to work with the superiors and the bosses and shake hands and, oh man, that guy's got great potential in the company. If the people who work along with you aren't enjoying the experience, then we're going to end up going. So then lastly, going up into the last point here, balance. Achieving the balance between the two is extremely key. I'll use myself as a great example. One of the great things that my previous boss had just told me was that whenever I was finishing off graduating from Tarrant County College, was the fact that whenever we're working as a student worker, you have to be able to put on multiple hats. You have to put on the hat of a student. You have to be able to put the hat of a student worker, a student leader, a public speaker, a videographer, a cameraman, all these other different things. You have to be able to put on different hats and be able to adapt and balance and be able to mesh and mold with all the different things that come through life. Because if you're just on one lane, like we said previously, and the multiple lane highway that is life, you're going to end up missing out on a bunch of different great things. So achieving the balance of all three of these great things, two of these great things is super key whenever it comes to building the greatest opportunities for yourself in the workplace. So going on into our next point here, communication and personal growth. And the quote that I like to go with here is heard and also seen. So whenever it comes into communication and personal growth, being able to communicate is one of the major things that I feel like it can be completely overlooked whenever it comes to our own mental health and our own personal growth, right? Communication and not being able to understand how you feel like on the inside, not being able to properly understand the right words and the right ways to express the way that you're feeling can completely alienate all those people around you. It can void you of different opportunities that you may experience and have in life. One of the most important things that we have out here whenever it comes to communication and personal expression is the way that we work as human beings. The thing that makes us different from all the other species on this planet, among a plethora of other things, is the fact that we have so many different various ways to express ourselves in so many different complex ways. Think about it from the music that you listen to, from the movies that you watch, from the clothes that you wear. All these other different things are different ways of communication and expression. Communication, once again, isn't just how you speak and the words that you use. Going back to it's only 7%. So communication also includes all the different ways that you present yourself and you carry yourself as well. So that being the case, it takes effort, and it not only takes effort, but it also plays itself in tenfold, being able to put in the work and effort to be able to understand yourself and express yourself effectively. Not being able to express yourself effectively can lead off to these 3 points, right? Being able to effectively communicate your needs. Now, that means both in relationships, romantically and platonically, and just friends and family as well. Being able to effectively communicate your needs means being able to effectively communicate when you're upset, effectively communicate whenever you need help with something, effectively communicate whenever you just need some time just for yourself and at peace. Without these essential things and what you may think is very basic parts of human communication, which many of us aren't taught whenever it comes into the actual day-to-day life of living, because it's not really a class unless you're taking specific time out to go in and look for communications classes. There's not a class out there that you're going to be getting in the average education for most Americans that's going to give you the opportunity to learn about all the intricacies and all the importances of personal communication, interpersonal communication. So with that being the case, being able to put in that time to be able to further build upon that can increase not only your mental health, but increase your personal value tenfold for being able to communicate positively for yourself. Also, usually equates to being able to communicate effectively for others as well. So then lastly, going into all that, being able to effectively communicate and break down and understand yourself can lead to a plethora of great values whenever it comes to not having to deal with so much pent-up issues, so many pent-up emotional problems, so many pent-up emotional traumas and issues that we may be able to interact with in our lives, and all the other great things like that. So then going into our next portion here is communication here in the digital age. So communication in the digital age can really pertain to a various large amount of things, but the thing that I'm going to lean very heavily into today is actually the area of social media and how quickly communication out there can range and can just move around, right? So social media, with the majority of communication being held on over there, from your Instagrams to your Snapchats to your Twitters to your Facebooks, there are millions of posts being made every single day. And those are different people's thoughts, different people's words, different people's voice messages, videos, pictures, all these other different things, right? There is constant information and constant expression being pushed out into the world on a daily basis. However, with that being the case, right, things can go around just like that. One of the greatest ways that I like to use this analogy to kind of summarize up everything is the fact that communication in today's modern digital age is kind of like the world's largest and not only can things be moved out at a very, very quick and rapid pace, but they can also be let out to be picked up by anyone at almost any time. Information can be picked out and snatched up like that, just with a quick Google search. So going into it correctly, let's see here. And actually, I would like to, there's one other point that I'd like to go over here in one of these previous slides. And it is whenever it comes into the concept here of conflict resolution. So I know I'm bringing you guys all the way back for a little bit, but I want to be able to go over this point for one great thing I want you to be able to gather from this is the fact that in conflict resolution as well, and being able to positively communicate for yourself and for others, one of the great skills that you gather from it as well is the ability to clear up confusion in the air. Now, I know that you guys can't immediately come out here to respond right now, right? But confusion of information is one of the major ways in this world that we can expect to have any kind of problems. Think about it like this, right? Confusion whenever it came to COVID, whenever it was first popping off back in 2020. Do we need to take the vaccine now? Do we need to take the booster shot? Do we need to go outside? Do I need to wear 2 masks? Do I need to wear 1 mask? Do I need to add all these things together and get the boosters and get the 2 masks and put in hand sanitizer? Like all the confusion that was tossed up in the air from various different media news sources to our social media, to our friends and family, all the confusion that was made up in the air. Think about it like that. For all the different confusion that came about in those moments, being able to effectively and positively communicate with yourself and communicate with others is the way that true and best information was be able to gather from this whole situation, right? So anyways, coming from all that, Clearing up confusion is the skill of a great communicator that can truly be able to break down and gather out information, be able to pull out different words, be able to pull out different pieces of information and list them off in a very easy to digest manner. So what was it? So that was just a point to be given off about one of the other great benefits of communication is the ability to effectively break down conflict resolution and dispel confusion. Confusion being one of the major issues that we can face here in the world whenever it comes to things beyond just our health and just our media and our news and everything like that, but just our interpersonal communication with friends and family as well. And just one quote to leave you with here, whenever it comes into the issues of confusion, how much we can lean into the fact that confusion is, was to make it real simple, right? Confusion bad, clarity good, in this kind of quote, right? For God is not the author of confusion, but of peace. 1 Corinthians 14:33. So pulling it back into biblical ties, confusion and chaos of those two things being intertwined and being, similar. Dang, I'm forgetting the word. It's slipping my mind. But anyways, confusion was it pretty much being the antithesis of peace and of tranquility and progress and most of all success. Effective communication, it can be a great tool to be able to dispel all that. So going back to our current point here, communication in the digital age. Sorry about all that. I know it's just talking about confusion, but to go between 2 points, hope you're able to keep up with it here. Going back into the speed of communication and the speed of social media intertwining with communication, what we can do to expect whenever we're dealing with the super highway of information that is social media, we can also need to keep in mind of how permanent all the things that we put out there. Now, I know we all deal with the social media stories like Instagram, being able to put up a story for 24 hours and it's gone, but just keep in mind the fact that majority of our stories are kept online inside of our little archives box up in the top right corner. And going back in for Snapchat, right, there are still options to be able to archive your chats. And if it's not available there, it's available for those people at headquarters who keep all this data somewhere. And not just going into small things like that, but also going into what we say online with things like Twitter and things like Facebook, things like just Instagram commenting, right? All those things they're super fast, they're super quick, they're super easy just to forget in that moment because millions of them are happening at the same time all over the world. But it's also important to keep in mind that all those things are permanent little marks here on the world here in this digital age. So keeping all that in mind, and this super vast, expansive, super mega highway of information and all of these different cars that are going down there are all permanent with so much to comprehend and all those different things. But it's also super important to keep in mind how effective and how useful these things are. The biggest and most effective things that we have here in the world are all based off of technology nowadays, being our Apples, being our Amazons, being our YouTubes, all those different other things. Communication is one of the major parts that makes these things so effective. What makes Apple so great is the matter of fact that people love staying within that ecosystem. What makes Amazon so effective is how it's ease of use, and from being able to type in anything that you want on Google and then almost immediately getting a quick Amazon search result for being able to find that exact thing. And the same thing for your YouTubes and for your TikToks. Communication for those different things are what make those things so successful. So being able to build upon your communication skills and being able to effectively break down complex tasks and break down complex ideas into simpler terms can be an absolute treasure trove of great information and great value for you as a young man and you as a young person out there for those watching. So then going into our last points here to bring up everything into a great conclusion, it is those close to you, that within and those beyond. I know that all three of those may seem a bit vague for you at the moment and everything like that, but I just want you to write those down for you in your journal, right? And then I'll go ahead and break them down for you right at each point. So we'll firstly go through those close. So whenever it comes into what I'm going to be doing to explain all of these, I'm going to be listing off the little title header and the importance of how communication intertwines with these titles, right? So what I mean by those close in communication is the fact that good communication helps garner and helps build the relationships of those close around you. And kind of tying back to what I was saying previously before, you show me those 5 people closest to you, I'll show you your future. So you continue to build up those great 5 people close to you, continue to help grow and adapt and shift and go with the tides of the world to be able to effectively build yourself a good circle around you, and you'll be able to also effectively build up a good version of yourself as well. So be mindful and listen to those whenever you're actively having conversations and having interactions with those around you, because those are the major things that can really help build good relationships. Like I was saying before, no great city was ever made with all entrances. It was also they also had to have exits. No, Rome wasn't made in a day, and all of those other great things take time and they take progress. So take out some time just to have a conversation with those people around you. And I challenge you today, right, for you to go out and have a conversation with someone close to you, and just keep in mind in the back of your head, talk less than you would normally want to. For wherever you might want to give a point, just sit back a little bit and just let the person talk. See if any extra information comes about from that interaction that you have with them. I know that I can personally attest to the times that I ramble on. For the times that I cut my tongue to just say, actually, you know what? I think I'm just going to wait this out just to hear what they say. I might end up I have oftentimes learned great and valuable things about these people close to me, from deep life stories of just hearing that person ramble on and talk about their life, from the times, the matter of fact that oftentimes whenever we have these conversations with these people and we get to talk to people, we might forget that your singular interaction with someone might mean more to them than it might ever mean to you, because we only ever know one side of the fence, one side of the gate whenever it comes to communication, unless that person opens it up with us. So just one single interaction, one single conversation, you may not understand the depth of it, how much those words really stuck to that person until afterwards. And you might not really understand it vice versa. That person might not really understand how much those words and everything stuck to you. So you can't even get to those places to be able to understand these great words without being able to actively listen and really build those relationships with the people around you. So coming to close off those close to you point, I want for you to go out and challenge yourself to be able to just sit back and listen a little bit more to those people around you. Go out and listen to your brother, go out and listen to your mom, go out and listen to your dad, whatever, who it is, go and check up on someone and just sit there and listen and let them speak out for their conversation. Because you never know. There might not be as many people as you think out there that actually have some place to go and actively vent, and just actually not even actively vent, but just have the open conversation, open discussion to talk about things they may want to talk about in that moment. You'd be surprised how few people out there are truly asked what their real passion is, what gets them up, and what gets them up every day. So going into our second point here, communication and its importance for that within. Like I was talking about previously before, whenever it comes to communication and the importance of it, whenever it comes to understanding ourselves and effectively communicating with others about how we may feel. Communication and effectively communicating how you feel and effectively expressing how you feel is exactly how we get these things out of our system. I'm sure many of you out there have had before, whenever you have that feeling of cathartic release, it is a feeling unlike anything else. I know that many of you make a little reference to those people who had their childhood like it, right? But growing up, whenever it was after you finish up crying, you get some of the best sleep of your life. It's because you got all that out, right? It's because that whole concept of a cathartic release, of just a really much well-needed release. And with tears being in that one similar vein, communication and expression is that same way. You're getting those things out. They're so pent up, and they can be so pent up within as emotions and as all the things that we may not fully understand, but also as thoughts. And those thoughts continue to ruminate and continue to marinate right within our mind. And without positive communication, without a good way to express and get those things out in the world, we can firstly never get them out of our system and clear that cathartic release. But secondly, we can never build upon those ideas. Like I was saying, no great team was ever made by itself. No great idea was ever made truly by itself as well. Although we may start with one singular point and then we grow upon it, like Steve Jobs had said, hey, I want to make some great computers. I want to make a great phone that's sleek, simple, and minimalistic. He had to still have a team to build upon that idea. He still had to have critics. Critics helping, chisel and build upon that, right? Help clear out and rub out some of the kinks and everything that may have within it. So take out that time to search within and find a good way to build upon your ability of self-expression. So into the second challenge, right? So I hope you're picking up the theme now, the fact that I'm going to give you 3 challenges by the end of this, to your second challenge being that you take out some time just to write out a quick little journal. Take out 5 minutes in your day, take out any time in your day, really, to just whenever you're feeling a lot of emotions, whenever you're having a lot of thoughts and things just process, I want you to take out some time. You ain't got to pull out a piece of paper, but just pull out your phone, put it in a text, put it in your notes app, put it on, comment on your own post on Instagram, something that you've private or something like that. but just make sure that you get that communication out there. Get these words, get these feelings, get these concepts out of your head. Get that cathartic release for yourself, because it's going to be so important whenever we need to clear out and get those things out to the internal health of ourselves. And not only to the internal health of ourselves, but the progression of these great ideas that we may have marinating within our heads. So challenge 1, go ahead and take some time out to go and listen to somebody, to just hear them out, hear what they have to say. Learn a little bit more about the people around you. Second point, take out 5 minutes, 10 minutes in your day to journal and to break down something something that may be ruminating and going on within your mind, within your spirit, within your soul, however it may be. Then third point here, those beyond. Do not be afraid to voice yourself in this world. Now, this is the first time in human history that a niche to almost any interest in the world, I'm talking about any interest, from, I don't know, maybe you have an interest in purely oil pastel abstract paintings that are Da Vinci inspired. Those interests have interest groups all around the world. There's an Instagram page for it. That's what I like to say, right? There's an Instagram page for it. There's a TikTok for it. There's a YouTube for it. There is a infinitely expansive group of people out here in the world that want to voice out their opinions, that are looking for those groups that they can relate to. And you belong to one of them, right? There is a group out there in the world that wants to hear your voice, that wants to hear the concepts that you have in your head. It's one of the most beautiful things that we have in the modern age of the fact that the world has gotten so small. I think that we can all attribute to the fact that we've all probably seen a few hot takes here and there that haven't made us the happiest, something about your favorite movie or favorite TV show that you didn't agree with. But that being the case, I hope you keep in mind that with the invention of Instagram, with the invention of your Instagrams, your Facebooks, and your Twitters, everybody has a voice. I could pick up my phone in this moment and type out that Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was the worst movie made in this year. And I could have no repercussions, but everybody could say what they want about it. The world is your oyster of communication. And I hope with that, one of the main themes that you gathered from here today, the importance of communication, the importance of building up upon that, is that with communication, the world being your oyster of open ears, you have the opportunity to change lives everywhere within a moment. So that being the case, the last and final point that I have here for you today is to go out there and do some research to find out, do some research in an interest or a passion that you have to find like-minded individuals. Now, this is a bit of an ambitious challenge, so I understand if you want to leave it there. My secondary backup, my 3B challenge is, right, to also do some work and some effort to effectively build upon your communication skills and go out and listen to or find a book that you like to do some research in to effectively build up upon your communication skills. One of the books that I found to be most effective for me was, firstly, little plug in here, right? Little plug. Effective Living, great book whenever it comes to just overall holistically building a great life for yourself as well. Got a second great book plug in, Building Your Best Life. Another great buck whenever it comes to building the greatest opportunities for yourself in your future. And then lastly, one of my personal favorite suggestions would also be The Compound Effect. Those three are 3 books that I would definitely say are great things to be able to build up upon and effectively construct the best version of yourself, to be able to also not only take advantage of this large oyster that is the world and this super highway of information of open ears and open opportunities, but also to be able to make the inward investment to be able to progress and further yourself. So, going through to cover our top 3 points that we have here today and top 3 challenges. Be mindful of those close to you, and be mindful of the circle that you have around you, and be wise to listen. Be wise to listen and take in the information of those around you, and to also evaluate the trajectory of where you're going with those people, right? Show me the 5 people closest to you, and I'll show you your future. So take out some time. Take out some time to listen to one of those people that are close to you, and one of those people inside your village and your circle. Point 2, take out some time to voice out, journal, text, type, post, or whatever about a feeling or emotion that you're experiencing at that time, or just a concept that may have been roaming in your head. Then lastly, point 3, go ahead and either pick up one of those 3 audiobooks, Effective Living by Coach Ricardo Miller. Building Your Best Life by Coach Deborah Smith, or lastly, The Compound Effect by, I think, Darren Hardy. Think so. Think that's correct. But yeah, those was to go ahead and do some research in those 3 books, or alternatively go out and do some research to go and find one of these groups in one of the different niches or interest areas that you may have in life. Because like I was saying before, there's a niche for everybody out there and everybody has a voice nowadays. So I want you to go ahead and challenge yourself to go and do that. And I thank you so much for tuning in with me, Ricardo Miller Jr., RJ Miller, talking about communicating effectively. And all those other great things. Communicating today is the key to success. So I hope that you take out the time to build upon that skill and to make that investment within yourself. Thank you.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you. All right. I hope if you tuned in late, you need to go back and listen to this in its entirety. RJ dropped a lot of valuable nuggets here today as he spoke on communication is the key to success. And he really got my attention when he started out, when he said 93% of popcorn is wasted, because that's one of my favorite snacks. I was like, huh, what? You got me on that one. I agree. Communication is an important key that we all need to take the time to get into. And RJ told us that, we need to look at it from a professional level as well as culture. And when you're talking about the culture and you're talking about communication, I thought about, I forget his name. I want to say Damien from Saturday, when he was talking about the man was getting ready to put this lady on medication because she was talking and she kept doing like this.
Yep.
Yeah. You got to know the culture. That's a big one.
They vary very drastically. Yeah.
That was good. The balance. And then what negative communication can do to you. You can put some things out and, if you ever played the game as a child, you tell the person next to you something and they have to repeat it. And when it comes back to you, it's something totally different. So just imagine everything that we hear in the news from our friends or whatever. By the time we get it, whether it started out true or not, so much has changed. So that communication, we can take it and we can make a good thing bad. We can take a bad thing and make it good. And I love when you talked about it being a super highway, because communication is so important. As we talk about our fathers and our sons and that communication, when you got over to talking about that listening, man, I was about to run up out of here, because that is a big blockage that we have, because everybody wants their opportunity to talk and they're not doing that listening. And listening is a key part of communication. A lot of people don't realize that, because you're standing there, you're like on pins and needles. You're waiting. Well, I wish he'd hurry up and finish talking because I want to tell him this joke I got, blah, blah, blah. And you're not even listening to the words that that person is saying to you that could change your life. So you miss out on a lot. And I'm not going to redo your talk because it was great, but I do want to challenge people on those things that you challenged us with. And that's one, to listen to others. Really, really listen to those verbals. And like RJ said, I want to say, you said it was 55% of those non-verbals that, people, they'll say, how are you doing today? I'm great. Okay, you're saying you're great, but your face not saying that. Your body language is not saying that. And that's why we're missing out on so much mental health. And you mentioned, mental health and some of the things that can help us as we talk. I think one of the challenges you gave us is to sit down and jot down, communicate those things that are going on in your mind. You're writing them down, so you're getting them out. Because a lot of people, they may not have the personality to say it out loud to someone, so they're keeping it in, and that can negatively impact their lives. So I do also agree with that. And then I love reading. Every week as I post, I always put something out there about reading, and I agree with RJ. I have 2 of those that he talked about, and I want to say I have the 3rd one too, but I have so many books, I'm going to have to go back and look about the 3rd one. What was it? The Compound Effect, but I'm pretty sure I have that one as well. But these 2 books can change your lives: Effective Living and Build Your Best Life. So if you have never thought about reading, that is something that you need to start. because reading can take you places, teach you things, give you education, show you how to take care of your mind and your body. It's just amazing. So thank you so much, RJ, for taking the time to not only come on here and be our first young adult speaker, but you took the time to come up with a great topic, communication, and because everyone doesn't learn the same way, I mean, your PowerPoint is added to the presentation because some people were there. I know they were reading like every word because it was clear. I could see it and I was, reading along. So thank you so very much for that presentation. I really enjoyed it. And I know there weren't a lot of people from Jacksonville on tonight. We had a big church training going on tonight. So I know that they will be going on later when they get home or tomorrow. But this is a great, great topic. And I hope you shared it with some of your friends and family so that they can have an opportunity to get this information.
Thank you. What was it? I'm hopeful that everybody did tune in tonight. Got a bunch of great things from it, and I'll most definitely actually be sharing this probably on my own social media a little bit as well. Take out a few snippets, see what I can do from there. But I think that this was a great time for people to understand the importance of communication and also its variedness and the fact that it's not just a bunch of words that we talk to each other. It's so much more. And I want to thank you again, Ms. Deborah, for giving me the opportunity to speak here this evening. You always give me a great time to be able to talk and build upon my craft and be able to get better at what I do, and also to be able to voice out all the different words and stuff I got in my head, because there's a ton of them. So thank you again for letting me come on this evening. Hope everybody who tuned in enjoyed, got some good stuff from it. You'll see me again, and I'll only be getting better. So you'll only be getting better and better information from me. So thank you. And then also, don't want to take up too much time at the end of this here, but also wanted to lean this in for my pops. When you watch this, thank you so much for being one of the greatest influence that I've gotten to be able to do this whole thing. I would say that probably majority of my speaking style, majority of my desire to speak comes from seeing my pops do it up on the stage for years, 2 decades now, to be precise, 2 decades and a year, 21. Yeah, I want to say thank you so much, Dad, for being a great example for me in that, right? I've been talking ever since I think I could, and I haven't stopped since. So thank you for being the inspiration for that.
Thank you so much. And again, thank you so much for joining us today, because you, like everybody else, could have been doing anything else, especially as summer and school is out. So thank you for taking the time to come out and share with us on our 2023, our 4th annual Men and Boys Conference. So I really appreciate it. So thank you, and be safe, and great things are coming your way.
Thank you. You as well.
All right. Thank you, everybody. And please join us tomorrow night. We have another one of our young adult speakers, Courtney Bell from the Texas area, will be with us at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So please join us tomorrow. We look forward to it. And hi, Miss Carol. Miss Carol just joined us. So make sure that you all tune in. We will be looking for you. Have a great rest of your evening. She says, hey, RJ. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and I will look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.